Nihal Sarin is waiting for his opponent to arrive, and there you have him. Pragnananda is up against Nihal. These two youngsters have faced off against each other for so many years. Maybe the first time was under 10 nationals, it seems. And they are India's pride. I think in 2018, when Tata Steel Chess India just began, these were the two youngsters who got the opportunity to play at it. I think Prag played in the Blitz, Nihal played in the Rapid, and it was a big moment for both of them. And now, few years later, 6 years later, they both are the top players of the country and the world and facing off against each other. This is going to be a very exciting game. Prag with the white pieces, Nihal has black, and shake of hands there. So small smile before that, and now a shake of hands, and off we go. C4 by Prag, and Nihal pauses a bit, plays C6. Maybe he wants to play the Slav defense. Knight comes out to F3, Knight F6, Knight to C3 played, and now pawn to D5. He plays pawn to D4 here, and E6 played. So this is known as the semi-Slav. The bishop goes to G5 and H6 played. Prag wants to play the sharp opening with bishop H4. Now T takes C4 is the sharp line, but Nihal decides to go steady. He plays knight BD7. Prag plays E3, and now we are in normal territory, normal Queen's Gambit territory, and it's a little bit passive what Nihal has chosen. Meanwhile, Prag develops the bishop. A good idea now is to take here and make the bishop move again, but Nihal castles. So does Prag. And let's see what Nihal does. He goes A6. So he's now planning takes, B5, followed by a very quick C5, A6, then defends the pawn on B5. So Prag decides to take on D5. Logical move. And I guess knight takes D5 is possible. But Nihal takes with the C pawn. Wow. This is actually very passive in a way. Knight E5. Prag forcing the issue. He could have also gone rook C1 with the idea of bishop D3, bishop B1, queen D3. But knight E5 takes, pawn takes. And now Nihal brings his knight back to D7. Prag says, I have more space. I want to keep more pieces. Brings his bishop back to G3. B6 played by Nihal. I think Nihal's style is pretty clear here. He knows that he's slightly inferior because of his bad bishop here, but he's ready to sort of grind it out, play slowly. F5, taking some measures on the king side. Prag does the opposite, knight F6, and now the light squares do look a bit weak on this diagonal, and that's the reason why Prag enters with his queen on G6. Nihal has to be careful here. He goes queen E8. I like this move by Nihal. He's offering a trade of queens, and Prag takes it. Queen takes queen. Rook takes queen. And now Prag goes rook to C1. So white still has a very small edge thanks to his better placed pieces, but Nihal is quickly developing. Bishop comes to D7. Now knight to E2. He wants to play knight D4, knight F4, maybe use the knights on those squares, but taking now control of the open file. Rook C8. Nihal having a decent position. Bishop E5, and I like this next move, bishop B5. This was the problem piece for Nihal. This was the good piece for Prag. And after trade, yes, Nihal gets the doubled pawns, but it also opens up his rook towards the A2 pawn. A3 played here, and now the position has equalized. King F7. I like how Nihal quickly gets the king into the game. These two players, both of them, are fantastic endgame players, and it will be interesting to see if they are ambitious here and try to push each other, because otherwise the position is quite equal and they could draw. But this move by Nihal is fantastic. If you take, he will straighten up his pawn structure. So Prag goes knight to D4, attacking the pawn on B5. He goes knight d7, attacking the bishop on e5. The bishop drops back to g3 and b4 is played. Pushing forward is Nihal Sarin here. Takes, and Nihal pauses for a bit and takes on b4. Because now if you take rook c4, I can take dc4 and then b5 is coming in. So Prag goes rook a1. Nihal brings his rook on a good square here and knight b3. Slowly and steadily Nihal is outplaying Pragnananda here. A very strong move now, e5, finds it. Excellent chess here by Nihal. He can slowly bring his king up to e6. Rook a7 by Prag. King comes up and now f4. But this is a big mistake because knight c5 is winning now for black. It's a very powerful move and Nihal finds it. What a move here by Nihal Sarin. Because after takes, you take with the bishop, the e3 pawn is very weak. Takes on e5, bishop e3, king f1, and now very important to play rook c2 with the idea of d4, king f5, king e4, and actually launching a very powerful attack. But instead he goes g5, not the best move there, and dropping a serious bit of advantage. Still, black is better, but Nihal Sarin could have really converted that if he would have found this move, rook c2. Now Prag goes rook h7, attacking the pawn on h6. Bishop comes back to f4, offering a trade of bishops. g4 was maybe better to defend this pawn this way, but he went bishop f4, takes, king takes e5, and Prag keeps the bishop on the board. Now Nihal pushes the pawn forward. The d pawn is still looking dangerous. If anyone's better here, it has to be black. Will he push d3 forward? Well, maybe not, because then the rook bishop would settle here. So he goes, he does play d3. Now check comes in. Oh my god, this is getting slightly dangerous for Nihal. He's pawn down and he's now giving white some good play. Rook check. Now king e4. And he plays his king up to f2. I guess it's possible to draw with bishop e3 check, king e1, but there's not a clear draw yet inside bishop d4. The thing is, if you take here, then I take, and if you take on g5, I have check, and it's a draw with rook c1, rook c2. So he goes king d2. Prag is quite ambitious. Check, king d1, rook comes back. He plays his rook to a5. I guess Prag has all the reasons to keep playing here. Rook c8. Maybe he wants to enter with rook f8 to f1. Rook a6 played. King comes back to d5. We're on move number 46. Both the players known for their endgame skills and can grind for long hours. But here, who's grinding whom? That's also a question. King e1. At least for the time being, it feels like Prag is the one who feels that he has better chances because of the extra pawn. But that pawn is going nowhere. Black is just too active with this three pieces right in the center. Rook a8. And time wise, both players have little time on the clock. Nihal had 2 seconds before that move. Prag on 24 seconds. King d1. Rook goes back to e7. And now check. He brings his king back. Another check. King e4. Prag fighting on, offering a trade of bishops. Bishop d4. If you take on g5, b2 is hanging. Prag says, I don't want that trade. He plays his bishop back to c3. Bishop e3 is a draw incoming here. Prag says, not really. Now rook a6. Rook goes back. And king e1. It's trying to confuse Nihal in some way. King d5. It's still completely fine here. Nihal's position is okay. Check, come back. Nihal also now having 26 seconds. Prag, in fact, the one with lower time on the clock. King d1. He can give up now and offer a draw. But, well, Prag is a fighter. Yeah, he doesn't want to take a draw. He goes b3, and now this bishop d2 move becomes even more strong because bishop d4 won't attack a pawn. So rook here, check. King goes back. And now you can offer a trade once again. Yes. And now have to be very careful. I like this move a lot, bishop d4, because if you take here on g5, I still have rook c2, very strong move. He goes rook a5 check, king e4, and now Prag wins the pawn. It's very important for Nihal now to find some good way to create counterplay. Rook f6 is fine, check, king e5, a big mistake. King d5 was what was important, because why is king e5 a mistake? Later when the bishop will move, let's say after bishop e1, if you play bishop e3, there's a check and you will lose the rook, which is why you can no longer keep control in the position. It's a very small reason, but it just completely ruins all the coordination. Yeah, there you see, now the king comes up. The bishop could not stop the king. That's the big problem. And now Nihal is losing his key pawn, the d3 pawn. And once that happens, Pragnananda has two clear extra pawns, and look at Nihal there, how upset he is. Takes king c4, and from a very good position he's landed up in a lost position, and you can see the unhappiness on his face there. Bishop c3. In fact, rook takes d4 would also have worked here, but he goes bishop c3, takes king c3, and now has to convert this two extra pawns, which is kind of an easy thing for a player like Prag. He brings his king closer. Some technical work needs to be done, and I'm sure that Prag is ready to put in that effort. Check, king up, check, king back, rook a3, and now rook to g3. So slowly and steadily you can move ahead with h4. First gives a check, king g5, king comes up, h4 next. Seems logical. Goes king h6, rook b3 played, and now h4. We can learn from Prag the technique of converting this rook plus two pawns versus rook, because sometimes it's a bit tricky. Especially we've seen at Tata Steel Chess India itself, Ding Leven blundering it against Vidit Gujarati. Rook a6, and now rook to e3, rook b6 waiting, king comes up to g4, check, king goes back, rook moves away, now rook a5. Now the idea is once again h5, king h4, g5, g4, and you know, you do it step by step. So h5, Nihal goes down, and now king h4. If check from here, you block with the pawn. If check from here, you move your king. It's pretty straightforward. Prag goes king h4 here. And Nihal could resign, but you know, why should he do that? He can just keep playing. G4 makes sense. G5 is coming up. Nihal goes back. And now you can give a check again on the last rank, because then if king h6, there's g5 mate, so king has to go to g8, and yeah, rook a4. Well, the idea is g5, so he will do that. g5, h6, king h5, g5 on the board. Rook goes back. You're on move 95. It's been a long grind here by Prag. H6. And brings his king forward. King H5. King H8. Preparing G6 next. Nihal waits. And now Rook to F5. Goes Rook A8. G6 is on the board. He still waits, and now there are many ways to win here, but perhaps the easiest one is check. Rook takes G7, and if you play King G8, an important move here is Rook King G6 with H7 coming up. He went King H7, but after takes he had to make a bishop. A rook or a queen would have led to a draw, stalemate, but a bishop is fine because the queening square is that of the bishop, and so Pragnananda scores a very good win here. Pressing, unfortunate for Nihal, he was better and close to winning at some point.